Okay, we're back, and in this part of the tutorial we're actually going to build hair. Who would have thought? It's fairly simple to do, but just to make things a little less confusing, I'm going to make my Victoria 4 figure invisible. Any moment now. There it goes. And then I'm going to select the model for my Victoria 4 proxy because I'm going to be putting the hair on the model. And it's as simple as, well, let me highlight that. There's the hair symbol at the top of your screen. Click, drag, and drop right onto the model of your proxy. It's going to want to take us into the modeling room for hair, but before it does, it's going to give us this little pop-up, and all you really need to remember is that all the presets are completely wrong. We want geometry based. We don't want UV based in order to place the hair. Because we don't have any UVs, it's just a low polygon figure, and whatever UVs it has are going to be sort of random or non-existent. We want the density to be based, guide based by guide hairs, and I'll explain what those are as we build it. So just remember to change those two, and then click OK. And here we are in the hair room. And this might be a little intimidating looking at all these tools, and each tool has its own, tool settings and general settings for the hair, the dynamics. It might look a little overwhelming. It certainly was for me when I first tried this, back when I first purchased Carrara. I thought, oh my gosh, kill me. I thought it was going to be, I just couldn't make anything work. Now, because I clicked on some stuff over here, it's randomly putting hairs all over the body, which is not what we want. But we do have a tool that can control where the hair grows. That's this little grow region tool right up here. Just click on that, and you see this sort of sphere that's all around the head. It's gigantic. That is the area of effect of the tool. So if I try to swipe some polygons, it's just way too big. But we can adjust that. And I'm going to undo what I just did by hitting Shift and holding down and sort of dragging over it. That sort of unselects it, and that's true of all these for many of these tools. Shift is sort of your opposite. But let's get that area of effect down, and we do that over in the Tool tab here. While the Grow Region tool is selected, we're going to take the radius, which is 1 foot, and instead of a foot, we will take it down to 0.05, and let's see, that's about right. I mean, it's a little bigger than the polygons, but not much, and because I'm going to be drawing on a lot of the polygons at once, it's pretty good. And this is all undoable, by the way, and regrowable, which I'll show you when we get to the more complex hairstyles. This is a very nifty little tool. Anyway, so I'm going to enable symmetry. When I paint on here, it's going to prompt me and say, in which direction do you want the symmetry? And this one, the default is actually right. And you can see that if I pull out, you can see that it splits the body right down the middle. And with symmetry enabled, if I select one polygon over here, its opposite will also be selected over there, for example. So let's just paint some regions for the hair to be on. If we get it wrong, we can always unselect. Let's see. I release and roll. It's okay, nothing is unselected. It's still green. I'm just going to draw it in there generally like so. How's that? Now, one thing I want to make note of, it's not quite right. Like that, maybe? I want her to have temples, And I think I'm drawing. Yeah, it's okay. It's good for a starter anyway. So we'll go with that for now. We might refine it later, and we can always go back and revisit it. So it's not like anything's set in stone. So one thing I wanted to mention about the Grow Region tool is this does not affect the hair density or the number of hairs on your body. The only controls where the hairs are growing out of. That's all it controls. So if you look over here in the General tab for the number of hairs that we've got set, as a default it comes in with 5,000 hairs. And that means there's 5,000 hairs to whatever green area you select. So and the reason that's important is you might think, whoops, see, they're all over the place, sort of evenly spread. You might think that if I was to take it down to a very small region, let's take it back out here, just erasing and scrubbing it off of there, undoing, shift selecting to do that. You might think that if I had it in a very small region that would decrease the number of hairs. It doesn't. The number of hairs is going to be 5,000 regardless. So if we look at that in just that region, let's see, how do I do that? I guess if I select any tool, you'll see that it actually is now much thicker in that region because all 5,000 hairs are in that one region. Now you can control which hairs have which amount of density. There is a tool to do that. It's the hair density tool, and you draw sort of sections with lower or higher density. So I don't want you to think that you're bound by this, but most of the time I think I like kind of uniform hair density, unless I'm drawing unless I want a character with male pattern baldness or what have you. So let me just go back and draw back in the regions again, and we'll continue with the display here. There is a temptation to just make a real even hairline at the front. That does not really exist in reality. People do generally have temples. There, regions of the hair where at the temples where it doesn't grow. Although those might be just a little too sharp. It'll do for a starter, I guess. And so that is the Grow Region tool. And if we just sort of click back in our main scene, we can now see that we've got a hair growing out of in every direction of that Grow Region. Okay, I paused it for just a moment there because I was trying to decide what to do next, and I wanted to show you just a couple of more things before we conclude this part of the tutorial and move on to other tools. And that is we're going to jump back into the hair room, and that's a little distracting, but I'll just leave it in place, and just take a look at some of these preset settings that are in here and what they mean. So I'm going to turn off the generated hairs because it's impossible not to stare at that huge hair that's very scary that's looking at me from the corner of my eye. The length of the hair that's preset of the loose hairs is 1 foot. The thickness, you have 4 drop downs to choose from, and you're going to want, for human hair, you're going to want to choose medium. Large and very large are just too thick and too large to be considered hair. They're probably better for things like grass. And thin, it actually could be hair, but it's so fine you can almost barely see it. So you could maybe do a little thin overlayer for just highlight effect if you needed to, or for like the little frizzy bits. But by and large, you want to stick in the medium section. Now, medium in and of itself can be further adjusted for size of width in the scaling section. It's set. I like it set scaled at 2. If I set it scaled at 1, it would be even thinner yet, and that will make the hair half as thin again, so to speak. But it gets a little too thin, and then I'd have to add more hairs to try to make up for that, or else I'd have sort of someone that looks, partially bald, or at least losing their hair, which can be a great effect for an older person. Then there's also in the hair shaders, there's actually a way of changing the width or the thickness of the root of the hair and the tip of the hair. And as you might imagine, roots are always thicker than the tips in real life, and we'll explore how to refine those as well. But I'm going to leave that at 2 for now. The rendering quality at 100% is just fine with me. I haven't had any problems with that. You could kick it up higher if you're a glutton for punishment, but I don't think it's necessary. And I think we're going to leave that here for the moment, and we'll talk about guide hairs in the next section. So I'll see you in the next time in the next section for the hair tutorial.